Dear students, today we will talk about macro level interventions for prosperity of rural region, overviews and the concern in the sector. The topics which will be covered are overview of agriculture sector, the data related to agriculture in India, the various turning points in agriculture and the major concerns in the sector. As all of us are aware, agriculture is main source of income and employment generation in rural area. There is no other income generation activity in rural area. Agriculture remains the backbone of the rural area, and the non-farm activities or allied agriculture activities are not to that scale that they can provide sufficient income to the people for managing their families and meeting their expenses. So agriculture remains the backbone of rural population, and in our case also there is no alternative to food and nutrition security. As all of us are aware, earlier India was importing food and it was dependent on Western countries for supply of food, and after Green Revolution we achieved the target of food production and food security was achieved, and this also led to political freedom of India. We were not dependent on anybody for food. The problems related to agriculture will be discussed, and we will concentrate on the topic that how the rural India can prosper with the growth of agriculture. So we have to shift from low productive agriculture to highly remunerative agriculture so that prosperity can increase and sustain in the rural sector. India as a country has very big population. It is around 110 crores at present, and in any case we cannot import food for our people. Some people suggest that we can put the land to alternative use and we can import cheap foods if available, but it is not possible for us because of our population. The amount of foreign currency which will be required will be huge, and we don't see any export which can earn so much foreign currency, as we don't have petroleum like exports like West Asian countries. So we cannot afford to reduce our agriculture production. We have to enhance and we have to increase the production, and we have to sustain this production, because earlier also this has been indicated that political freedom is linked to the food security. We have seen the case of Russia where food scarcity caused so much problem. We have huge population. Sometimes we feel, and also it is a weakness of our country, we have to divide the resource among so much people, but we have to convert this population into strength. We have to make productive use of this population like China for prosperity, for increasing our GDP, for increasing the production in every sector, including agriculture. So there is no alternative. We have to go for high growth agriculture, and what are the concerns, what are the problems, how it will be achieved, that we will discuss one by one. Now we will discuss about agriculture. Agriculture is the activity which supports our three basic needs. What are the three basic needs? They are food, shelter and clothing. Food, no doubt, there is no other thing, means agriculture is the only thing. Even in case of non-vegetarians, the ultimate food which is eaten by the base level animal like this piggery, or it is poultry, or it is goat or any other animals, it is vegetable based only. So whatever diet we consume, whether it is vegetarian or non-vegetarian, ultimately it depends on agriculture. Shelter, we require wood, we require other material which comes from agriculture sector, clothing, mainly fiber crops, all fiber crops other than the polyester like cotton, they come from agriculture ground only. So for all the three basic needs, agriculture is basic requirement. So this sector will always be needed and this sector should always prosper. Due to our population, we have a huge domestic market, and the huge domestic market is advantageous also. The global recession was insulated by us due to some extent, only due to our domestic consumption. We are not only supported by exports, we have our local economy also. So the potential of the population will have to be harnessed. Now, if we think that agriculture yields will not go further, it is wrong. If we go by the international standards, we will find that there is huge gap in productivity. So we can go for further production. We can save a lot of foreign currency because still we are importing some of the food items. The food items like oil seeds, we are importing cotton fiber. So there is scope of increasing the production of these items to save the foreign currency, and it is estimated that 4% growth in this sector will result in overall growth of 8% in GDP. So whatever growth we will achieve, it is dependent on agriculture. Now we will discuss about the agriculture statistics, which is basic for further discussions. Our geographical area in terms of million hectares, it is 328.73. It means we have a huge area. Forests cover 70 million hectare. Then non-agriculture uses like houses, industries and other applications, they are 22.9 million hectare. We have a 17.5 million hectare barren land which cannot be put to any productive use. So some alternative use is to be thought about this land. We have pasture lands about 10.8 million hectare. These pasture lands are used by used for sheep and goat rearing. We have other land for 3.4 million hectare which is put to other uses. The productive wasteland is 13.12 million hectare. This is one of our targets for achieving food security. We have to put this land to productive use, which is presently under wastelands. The total cropped area is 192.8 million hectare, but it is reducing very slowly, but it is reducing because of transfer of productive land to other areas, and we have 50.9 million hectare land which is sown more than once. This is the area where we have to increase, and we have to go for another cropping to achieve higher productions. And gross irrigated area is only 82.63. This is another area of concern because we have to increase the gross irrigated area so that our entire agricultural land comes under irrigated areas. As far as biodiversity is concerned, we have 46,000 species of plants. It means a very big biodiversity, and 86,000 species of animals, which also shows that our biodiversity in case of animals, insects, etc. is also very high. 2/3 of our population is living in rural areas or semi-urban areas, and agriculture is providing livelihood support to around 65% of the population. It means agriculture sector is providing direct or indirect employment to 65% of population. So There is no other data which can support the fact that agriculture cannot wait. It has to prosper, it has to gain. Another thing is, which is a matter of concern, that our food production is stagnating. It reached about 210 million tons, and our efforts for increasing it further are not giving any productive results, and it is stagnating or sometimes going below or marginally above, and we will require about 270 million tons food grains by 2020. So in 10 years time we have to increase the production by 60 million tons. How it will be achieved? This is our main area of concern, whether to convert wastelands to productive use or to increase the productivity or double cropping, etc., etc. There are so many ways, we will discuss one by one. Then another thing, we have highest irrigated area in the world. Even then we could not produce that much food grains which we require. Our milk production is high and it is presently highest. We are not importing any milk products now. Earlier we were importing. And our cattle population is highest, but our cattle are not that productive as compared to other countries. And land area which we have, it is not sufficient to support so much cattle. And our imports are increasing at a faster rate as compared to the exports. It means our agriculture imports are roughly increasing at the rate of 25%, and main areas are oil seeds and cotton crops. The threat is degradation of land. About 50% of land which is productive at present, it may go to degradation if these steps are not taken. 60% area is still dependent on rainfall, and the share of agriculture is declining day by day in GDP, and at present it is about 18%. So by going through these statistics, we can be sure that there are areas, there is scope for increasing agriculture production and achieving the target of 4% growth in agriculture. We have earlier tried various alternatives. We have earlier tried interventions, and those were successful. Few stories we will tell before going further. First of all is Green Revolution. We are all aware of this term, Green Revolution. Why Green Revolution? Because in 1960s we were facing lot of problem of food. Hunger was prevalent, famines were prevalent, and people were dying of hunger in parts of the country. We were dependent on Western world for food, for grains, for everything. So Green Revolution concept was brought to India from western part of the world. The research was carried out in America and South America, but it was brought to India for productive use. The main focus of Green Revolution was on 3 crops: wheat, paddy and maize. And the inputs we selected for increasing the yield were high yielding variety of seeds, chemical fertilizers and pesticides. These 3 inputs were selected and they were made available to the farmers so that production can increase. The already irrigated area by surface irrigation, by canals, by rivers, they were selected for this Green Revolution, and emphasis was given on increasing food production in these areas, mainly Punjab, Haryana, some parts of Uttar Pradesh and some parts in the southern India, mostly in northern India. The goal was achieved. We increased yield was there, total food production increased, self-sufficiency was achieved, and mainly due to increased yield after application of fertilizers. The size of straw was short and the maturity of the crops was early. These all 3 things, they contributed towards increase in yield. The average income of the people in the areas where Green Revolution was there it was doubled, and it also happened that other activities supplement to agriculture, they were also started in those areas, and entire India was able to feed on the food produced by these areas in addition to the crops of other areas. So what were the achievements? Not only food production, the other achievement was that we could stop the transfer of forest land into agriculture, because at that time it was a policy of government that in case the food production is not going to increase, we have to shift the forest land towards agriculture, and some part of the forest land was also diverted in many parts of India for agriculture. Technological intervention, they were first time introduced to the farmers, because before that the agriculture was left to nature and the production was also left to the nature and forces of the. The other allied activities were introduced like poultry, dairy and fisheries. The farmers, they came to know that they can do these activities in addition to the agriculture for supplementing the income. However, the flip side was also there, flop sides were also there. The main reason the farmers were not trained to understand the effects. They were trained to put fertilizers, they were trained to put pesticides, but how much and how much will be the dangerous level, all these things were not known to them, so ill effects came. The new set of problems started occurring. Many problems started. After Green Revolution, the excess fertilizers polluted water, including groundwater. The pesticides, when it was in excess, it poisoned our farmers, the farm labor. The pests which were friendly to crops, they were destroyed, and the wild animals who were eating the vegetation, they were killed unknowingly because they were not knowing about the pesticides. The farmers were also not knowing that they are indirectly contributing towards killing of the wildlife. However, these things happened. The irrigation practices were not very much understood by the farmers. They only used flood irrigation, and too much water was used, and it resulted in very sharp fall in the water table, and salt formation in the soil was rampant, and without fertilizer these soils could not yield any grains, and slowly the biodiversity of the country was also lost due to loss of the seeds, indigenous seeds and other varieties. Slowly they were replaced by the high yielding varieties, and the effect was so tremendous that for even research purpose the original seeds are not available. The soil fertility deteriorated because of the only application of chemical fertilizers. The biofertilizers were not used. Biofertilizers like compost, the yield was also low of biofertilizers because of the number of animals which are producing cow dung and other things, waste for the production of biofertilizers, they were also reduced. The other effects in totality will be discussed in our other session, because this other session will be devoted for that only. Now we will discuss about another revolution, that is White Revolution. White Revolution is all about production of the milk. Earlier there was a shortage of milk. We were importing milk products like milk powder and butter oil from the western countries, especially Europe, and reconstituted milk was sold in India as a substitute of milk, mainly in the cities. The White Revolution was pioneered by NDDB, National Dairy Development Board, with the help of European Economic Community, World Bank and Government of India. It was one of the successful revolutions after Green Revolution, and mainly because of the cooperatives. the main thrust was to establish cooperatives not only for collection but also for processing and marketing. The Gujarat experiment, the experiment Maharashtra, they were far ahead from the other parts of the countries. The Amul brand from Gujarat, it is well known not only in India but also in outside world. But the progress was not limited to Gujarat or Maharashtra. Dairy federations were established in almost all part of the country, and the milk collection centers were opened, processing plants were opened, and the milk production slowly increased and self-sufficiency was achieved in milk production and import was stopped. It was mainly due to increasing the infrastructure for veterinary health, then feed production plants and artificial insemination centers for improving the breed of the local cattle. One of the most important thing was encouraging women to take part in dairy activities. Earlier days, the women folk of the rural area was not contributing towards any productive activity. They were sitting at home, and only in some part of the India like hills or Kerala, the women folk was going for farming. In other parts of India, women folk were not even knowing about the location of the fields where agriculture is being done. So, encouragement of women, it provided a alternative source of income to them and also increased the productivity of the population. The crossbreeding of the animal was promoted for the purpose of increasing the milk production. Supplementary income was generated due to milk production. The prosperity of the rural area increased due to this. The fair price to consumers and producers was also a target, so that people can get milk at reasonable rate and also producers get the fair price of the produce, and the middlemen were eliminated. The production was increased from 30 million tons in 1980 to 90 million tons in 2005. Middlemen were completely eliminated from the marketing process. However, certain issues are yet to be addressed. People who criticize this revolution, they say that no substitute nutrition to rural people was provided, as the milk was drawn from the rural areas and they were selling entire quantity of milk generated in rural areas, and no milk was left for their own consumption or consumption of the children. This is partly true because entire milk was marketed to the big cities and there was no milk for supplementing the nutrition of rural people. Another thing is rampant misuse of hormones. This problem is prevalent even today. For generating excess quantity of milk, people started using hormones they injected hormones in animals for producing milk, and it resulted in very poor health of the animal. The indigenous breeds of the cattle started vanishing, and today most of the animals which are producing milk, they are crossbred animals. So these points are also to be seen at the time of review of this type of revolution, so that all ill effects can be removed. Another revolution was Yellow Revolution. Yellow Revolution pertains to production of oil seeds. India was importing oil seeds at one point of time, and even now it is importing. This Yellow Revolution resulted in increase of yield from 11 million tons to 25 million tons in 1996-97. And this revolution was carried out in a mission form, and the emphasis was to increase not only production but also productivity. The mission resulted in increase of productivity to 931 kilogram per hectare. The strategy adopted by this mission was to provide improved seeds, expand cultivated areas and extend price support. It means they have tried all the ways to improve or increase the production. Good seeds were given to the farmers so that they can get good benefit, good yield of the oil seeds. The cultivated areas were increased because oil seeds do not require that much irrigation as compared to the wheat and rice, and price support was extended by Government of India for selling the oil seeds. Soya bean, sunflower, groundnut and mustard crops were focused for increasing the production, but somehow we could not achieve the self-sufficiency in oil seeds, and we are still importing the edible oils from various countries. There are areas of concerns, though we have achieved a lot from green revolution, from white revolution, from yellow revolution, from blue revolution, and now we are talking about technological revolution, IT revolution. So many revolutions we are thinking and working on, but there are concerns. There was intervention in the agriculture, like increasing credit from double then to triple level, but growth is declining and imports are increasing. The population is increasing at same rate. Climate changes and global warming are coming as a potential threat to food security. We are seeing the lot of difference in temperature, changes in weather and rainfall pattern in all over the country, which is threatening the agriculture, which is also threatening the basic methods of cultivation because of the rampant change in the temperatures and the type of rainfall and the season of rainfall all over the country. Now we will discuss one by one the concerns in the agriculture sector. The first area of concern is low productivity. All of us are aware that India is practicing agriculture since thousands of centuries. Our productivity in the field is increasing day by day, but the productivity which has been achieved by Western world due to technological interventions is much higher than the productivity which we have. The Western world has almost double or triple productivity as compared to us in case of most of the food grains and oilseed crops. So we have to increase productivity, as it is not possible to increase the area immediately. This is the first thing which we can increase without much of the efforts. Another area of concern is wrong agronomic practices, poor and untreated seeds and poor health of soils. What is meant by this? This means the agronomic practices which our farmers are adopting, they are not as per the scientific research. There is a scope of improvement to increase the yield. The seeds which the farmers are using, they are not of good quality. Sometimes spurious seeds are being sold in the market and used by the farmers. The seed treatment process as per the agronomic practices are not being followed, which is resulting in poor yield of the crops and sometimes failure of the crops. The soil health is deteriorating day by day due to use of chemical fertilizers, due to loss of organic matters from the soil. The soil is becoming lighter and prone to the degradation. The main reason was not adopting the scientific practices in true manner. We applied the chemical fertilizers, but we never thought of increasing the organic matter in the soil, and there are methods to increase the organic matters without actual expense of money or without actual application of the labor. Sometimes we have to just leave the farm residue in the farm to increase the organic content of the soil. After Green Revolution, we adopted monocultures. The diversification of cropping was almost stopped, and some varieties of the rice and wheat which were high yielding, they were used by farmers all over the country, and this resulted in the outbreak of diseases and the low resistance to the disease. The pests which were effective on the some variety, they were prevalent and they destroyed the crops in entire area because different type of genetic material was not being cropped and monocultures were there. So this problem has to be addressed. Another thing is low farm mechanization. The mechanization in the farms always results in low labor costs and higher productivity. But we could not mechanize our farms mainly due to small size. The other thing which was responsible for low productivity is dependence on monsoon. Because of the irrigation is not available to the entire cultivated area, and most of the part is still dependent on monsoon. Though the irrigated areas are also dependent on monsoon ultimately, but for 1 or 2 seasons we can depend on groundwater or canal water even if the rain fails. The another area of concern which is being discussed everywhere, and it has been separately discussed in another session, is falling water levels. Falling water levels in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh and another areas South Asia, they are concerned of the scientists worldwide, not even in India. The remote science data of NASA also shows how water levels are declining in India and other parts of South Asia. The reason the reason is groundwater boom. After invention of tube wells and popularization of pump irrigation, the groundwater sector was revolutionized. Entire area which is under irrigation, now about 80% of this area is fed with the pump irrigation. Surface irrigation share is declining day by day. Earlier it was not considered as a problem, but now we see that groundwater table is declining, the pumps are failing, we have to install new pumps and we have to use more energy for drawing same amount of the water. The drastic fall has been noticed all over the country, but mostly in Punjab, Haryana, western part of UP, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and some parts of the Maharashtra. This is also resulting in harmful chemicals which are coming above the ground level and they are deteriorating the quality of the soil. Then another problem which is an area of concern is small holding. The size of holdings in India is decreasing day by day due to increase in population, due to division of the families, due to social reasons. The farm size is declining day by day. In earlier days, joint family system was there, and some farming communities in Punjab and western UP, Haryana, there is no use to name the communities, but communities are known to everybody whose basic occupation was farming. They always had joint family system. They were not dividing the farmland and they were not dividing the farms, but with the new culture, due to effect of Western culture and other regions, now the families are divided and land is fragmented, small holdings are there. The small holdings, all of us know they are not productive. A small size of holding, whether it is agriculture or small scale industry, the scale of production is not achieved, productivity is always low. In rural areas, whenever fragmentation is there we provide some type of dividers, and these dividers are also consuming lot of productive land. It looks very small. People may think that dividers cannot consume land, but actually if you calculate the dividers, they are reducing our farming areas to 1 to 2% in a total scenario. And this, if you calculate by seeing the entire cropped area, this will come to a huge quantity. Cooperative or joint farming is not popular in India. If a small size of holdings are there, if people join hand and cooperate with each other and do cooperative farming, they can be successful and high productivity can be achieved, but it is not being practiced in India. The small holdings are also resulting in social tensions in the village. Weed, pests and disease, they are another area of concern. We have discussed something about weeds earlier also in this lecture. High growth of weeds is converting fertile land to the wasteland. Weeds are prevalent in agriculture since time immemorial, but there are weeds which are alien to the country, which came from the foreign countries along with the foreign breeds of the seeds and with the other imported material. In addition to this, there are some type of weeds which are very difficult to destroy, and they grow very fast and they take the nutrition from the soil and they do not allow the actual crop to grow. We require a lot of manpower and even machinery for de-weeding in some of the areas so that land can be brought to the productive use. Cropping of few varieties of grains, intensive cultivation and water logging. All these factors which we think that they increase the production, they also contribute towards growth of the pests because of water logging, because of the less interval between two crops and other reasons, the pest growth continues, and this pest growth is harmful for the crops, and in order to reduce or kill these pests we require pesticides, and sometimes these pesticides, they not only harm the pests but they also harm us. They also kill the useful pests, they also poison the food, the farm residue, they also pollute the groundwater, and they also poison the farmers and farm workers who use the pesticides, who spray the pesticides in the fields. The pesticide residues have been found in groundwater, in the grains produced, and sometimes our agriculture produce has been rejected by the importers due to presence of high amount of pesticides. Storage loss. Storage loss is an area which we can reduce to zero, or if not exactly zero, we can reduce the storage losses to almost zero. If we compare the storage, transportation and distribution losses, they are highest in India and as compared to the entire world. We lose about 10% of the food production due to poor storage or due to moisture or due to other losses. This we cannot afford in the country where all people are not getting enough food to eat. Losing the already cultivated food is a matter of high concern. The grains have good shelf life, they can be stored for years together, but the vegetables and fruits which are perishable in nature, they are lost very fast, and we lose hundreds of crores worth vegetables and fruits every year due to poor storage or non-availability of the facilities related to storage. Then if we go to any godown which are managed by cooperatives or by other government agencies, we will find over storage. The grains are rotting in the open area covered with the polythene sheets because there is no space in the godown. After any crop, the government agencies always purchase the grains from the farmers at the predetermined price, and farmers sell these grains because they want cash, they immediately sell. But government agencies sometimes have no storage facilities and the grains rot in the fields nearby the godown facilities. This can be seen everywhere in India. We have already discussed that we lose lot of grains due to poor storage. This is an area of high concern, and we have to see that whatever grain, whatever vegetable, whatever fruits we produce, it reaches to consumer, it reaches to actual users without any problem, and this can be achieved without any support from any other agency. We have to cooperate with each other and create infrastructure within the village, within the cities, so that we can store without any much of the expenses and without taking help from external agencies. Another thing which is very important is land degradation. Why land degradation is important? Because land is the thing which is basic to agriculture. All plants are supported on land only, and it is considered as a primary source. In India, about 50% land which is used for cultivation, it is under threat of degradation. Degradation will not only come from natural sources, but it comes from the human activities. What are the activities? One is over irrigation. We have already discussed that if we put too much of the water, it will bring the salts back into the soil. Then chemical fertilizers. Too much chemical fertilizers, they reduce the fertility of the soil and they make the soils lighter, and light soils are prone to the erosion by wind or erosion by the water. Loss of vegetation cover, whenever lost, it makes the soils prone to the degradation, and they are easily carried away by the wind or heavy rains. The soil cover is lost, the productive soil is lost. Pollution and rapid changes in the land use, they are another areas. If we pollute this soil, it is not useful for any agriculture activity because of the disposal of the industrial waste, because of the disposal of the fly ash from the powerhouses. The soil condition is becoming bad in some of the areas, and land use pattern in nearby areas, that is conversion to residential or conversion to industry, they are also responsible for degradation of agricultural land. The natural agents are wind and water, but with the proper intervention we can control these two things to some extent, but not to the 100%, because nature also regenerates, and in some forms the degradation or deterioration due to air and due to water is part of the natural cycle, and they shift the productive soil from the hills to the plains. Poor infrastructure. We will discuss this topic in detail in infrastructure, but it is essential to discuss this thing here also. Infrastructure is primary requirement for development and growth. There is no doubt, and no further discussion is required on this thing. We had no approach towards providing infrastructure in rural areas after our independence. For about 30 years, the infrastructure was left to state government, and it was provided out of the budget of the state government without any planning, long-term planning. It was provided based on the requirement of local people or the influence of the politicians. The infrastructure was provided here and there, but there was no connected or no concentrated effort to provide infrastructure related to agriculture. Entire northeast and eastern part of India are backward, mainly due to infrastructure. Lack of infrastructure is contributing towards non-development of these two regions, because soil is fertile, water is available, all natural resources are available for development of agriculture, but due to lack of infrastructure, these two regions are still very poor. Road, telecommunication, power, water, market, input supply, processing facilities, all these things are parts of infrastructure. And in addition to above, the other components like human resource, like education, health, banking facilities, all these things are also part of infrastructure. There may not be any physical thing involved, but their development is a must for any development or taking advantage of the physical infrastructure created by government. The main reason why infrastructure is important even today, poor infrastructure keeps the entrepreneur away from the rural areas. This is the main area of concern. If health facilities are available, then people will be attracted towards villages because of the good environment. If banking facilities are available, entrepreneurs will go. If roads are available, in small scale industry will develop, process industry will develop. People would like to establish industry near to the raw material availability. Agriculture graduates, trained graduates, they will go and they will set up small scale industries in rural areas if all these infrastructure facilities are available. So our aim should be to provide infrastructure competent to the urban areas, in rural areas, for enhancing agriculture productivity. Another area is mechanization. Mechanization means doing the agriculture activities by mechanical means instead of the labor. Presently and in past also, most of the agricultural activities in India are carried out with the help of human labor. But now with the rapid pace of industrialization and growth of the service industry, the demand of the people is there. Unskilled and skilled persons are going there because of the high rate of income, availability of infrastructure facilities, and availability of good facilities in urban areas. People like to go to urban areas, and the farm labor, availability of farm labor is decreasing day by day. The Punjab and other developed areas are only dependent on migrant laborers from Odisha, from Bihar, and from some parts of eastern Uttar Pradesh. The migrant labor is withdrawn from Punjab and Haryana, the agriculture activity will suffer a lot. So the alternative is mechanization. And it is good also that most of the people, they shift to the industries or other areas because Indian agriculture cannot sustain such a huge population. So shifting of population to other productive areas should be encouraged, and agriculture should be mechanized slowly. The concern is that in India only tractors are considered as a implement for farm mechanization, and high power tractors are being made available to the farmers. These tractors consume lot of fuel, they are very costly also, and the farmers take finance from the bank for purchase of these tractors, and they become poorer than earlier because of the high expenditure on maintaining these tractors. The high capacity tractors, they are economical only in case of very big holdings. For small scale farmers, the high capacity tractors are not useful. The low powered farm equipment are not popular in India, and we have to see this area as a concern area, and we have to welcome research and development in this area and also call for industrial intervention so that industry comes forward and they produce good equipments for farm mechanization. Technology is another part. If we talk of technology, today our world is dependent on technologies. Every part, every aspect of the life is affected by technology, be it health, be it telecommunication, traveling, everywhere we will find use of technology. So agriculture should not be left from the advances of the technology. But today it is weakest link in Indian agriculture. Most of the technology which we have used or which are being used, they were imported from the Western world. We have not developed indigenous technology in agriculture, and if developed, they were not transferred to the field. The transfer of technology from lab to field is very slow. The reason is transfer of technology requires some skill. The educated youth are the important link for transfer of technology, and they are leaving the villages. When the educated youth are leaving the village, who will transfer the technology? This is the big question. And again we will come back to the same issue, that lack of infrastructure is main stumbling block in transfer of technology. As infrastructure is not available, the educated youth are not attracted to village. As soon as they get education, they leave the village for the search of job and they go to the cities. So who will transfer the technology? This is a question. Availability of electrical power, which is also a part of infrastructure, is must for using any type of technology, any type of technological application, be it IT service, be it telecom service, or application of value addition, industrial, the processing of farm residue or processing of grains or any type of small scale industry, power is required. So that is also a block in developing agriculture. And after Green Revolution, we have not seen any major technological intervention in our agriculture from government side. And most of the research which is carried out in India, it is not finding any application at the farms. Now we will discuss an important thing. When everything goes well and good produce is there, the farmer requires marketing. But in India, farmer groups have no control on the market. The market is controlled by some businessmen and some intermediaries, and they decide the rate at which they will purchase from the farmer. And whenever there is a good crop, whenever the production is good, the situation becomes a glut type of situation and they reduce the rate of the purchase. The market is full of intermediaries, and these intermediaries do not provide any value addition. In whatever farm they purchase, they are not providing any service like grading or any other processing. They are just selling the produce purchased from the farmer with adding additional cost. They add their cost and they sell it. And number of intermediaries is increasing the cost to the consumer. But the farmer is not getting any benefit out of it. They are cheating the farmer at every stage, from weighing to final cash payment. When the farmer takes his produce to the market, it is not correctly weighed. And it has been estimated that Indian farmers lose thousands of crores of rupees due to wrong weighment by the traders. This is a very peculiar situation. If we are able to provide electronic weighment machines to farmers, how much they will prosper? How much amount of capital will be formed in rural areas? The thousands of crores of rupees which are going to traders, they will come back to the villages. The huge gap in the farm gate price and the market price. Most of the crops like vegetables, fruits, what farmers get at the time of selling and what producer pays for purchasing, there is a huge gap. Take any crop, from tomato or apple or banana or any other crop. If we go to the rural area, we will find that price which is paid to the producer is very less as compared to the price which we pay for purchasing these items. And whenever there is a good production, we have already discussed that throwaway prices are paid to the farmers for selling these items. So this is a deterrent. Why farmer will produce more if he is going to get less price? So developing a marketing channel, developing cooperative marketing, these are the all things which we will discuss later on. Another tool is credit. We all know that money is required for any operation, whether it is industry, whether it is agriculture, whether it is business, whether it is trade. We require flow of money. And farming is an activity which is seasonal. Farmer's produce is sold once, twice or thrice in a year. If he is getting only one crop, he will get payment only once in a year. If he is getting two crops out of his soil, his land, he will get payment twice a year. And if land is very good, irrigation is there, and he is taking third crop also, maybe vegetables or something, then he will get money thrice. That is the ideal situation. There is no perennial flow of money. So farmer will require credit, and at one point of time our planners thought that credit is the solution of all problems of the farmers. If we double or if we triple the agriculture credit, it will increase the production and it will solve all the problems. But it is not so. The agencies which are providing credit, they were told by government agencies to double it, and later on it was tripled also. But if we see the data, there is no relation between credit flow by government agencies and the production actually happened at the field level. Why? Because to some extent the credit agencies, they substituted the traditional money lenders, and there was no technological backup after provision of this credit. A gap was there. Credit absorption capacity of the rural masses was not there, and it was not considered. The gates were opened and people availed the credit without the know-how how to utilize the money. Then, due to political reasons and other problems, successive loan waivers were there. So people thought that they should take money and they will not have to return it, and the money was used for consumption purpose rather than for productive purposes. The other problem related to credit was target-oriented approach. The targets were fixed for disbursement of credit for banks and other government-controlled institutions, and they have to disperse that amount of loan to farmers in agriculture sector. This approach was negative in some sectors because the scale of finance was increased to achieve the targets, and in some cases it was as high that the amount realized from the produce after selling it was much lower. So the farmer was not able to pay the loan which was taken for a particular crop because of higher scale of finance. His own contribution was not there, and the surplus money could have been utilized for some other purpose, but at the time of repayment he had no surplus to pay the bank loans. The non-scientific use of credit means the credit was taken for some purpose, but the know-how was not there, or it could not be utilized properly for that purpose. Maybe higher HP of tractor has been purchased, or higher capacity pump has been installed which is consuming more energy, or the quality of planting material purchased for horticulture purpose that was not good, or required amount of know-how was not available for establishing and any other investment activity. So we have to use credit with technological backing, and the credit provided to farmers or any other person without proper backing of knowledge or proper backing of technology, it is not productive and it is rather counterproductive. So we will discuss about proper use of credit in another session. Risk management. Risk is another area which is associated with agriculture. Agriculture is considered to be very high risk activity. Why? Because it is full of risks from the sowing of seed and up to the harvesting and selling it. Till the market price is realized, there is risk. Seed may not germinate, or pest effect is there, or untimely rains destroy your crops, or finally a good harvest is there, but there is outbreak of disease, sometimes fire, sometimes untimely rains or storms, they destroy the crop. Sometimes the entire crop is lost, sometimes it is partly lost. Or a huge crop is there, but market arrivals are very high, so the price decreases. All these factors are there which make the agriculture a high risk activity. But there is no substitute of agriculture, as we have already discussed. So we have to find solutions. Solution is risk management. Risk management in all sectors, be it on the farm, be it off the farm. We have to cover risk of a farmer, we have to cover risk on the farmer's life and risk on the farmer's crops. Present insurance system which is followed, in which rainfall data for a district is taken or other methods are taken, they are not very popular among the farmers because they do not properly cover the crops. So we have to devise the products which are farmer friendly and the farmers are actually benefited with these products. Initially, as we do in any other case, we have to subsidize the insurance sector for farmers for some time before it takes a proper shape. Another area of concern is the private investment. Agriculture is not attracting private investment in huge amounts. Government is investing in agriculture, farmer is taking loan and he is investing in agriculture. But the policies of government at present, they are not favorable for private investment or corporate investment in agriculture sector. Government alone cannot provide infrastructure. Infrastructure needed in rural areas is huge. And even in case of urban infrastructure, in case of airports, in case of roads, in case of bridges, in case of flyovers, we are taking help of private investors. Even foreign investors have been encouraged to enter infrastructure area. So we have to open up these areas like rural godowns, cold storages, supply chains, cold chains, marketing facilities and other infrastructure facilities, and we have to attract the investment from private entrepreneurs, investment from foreign agencies on our terms. We have to invite and we have to provide infrastructure, provide other facilities in rural areas with the private investment. And we have to link farmers directly to these entrepreneurs. We have to avoid the intermediaries so that the farmers gain directly from the investment made by the private entrepreneurs or foreign investors. One of the area of concern is lack of trained human resource. We have already discussed that technology transfer is not taking place in rural areas due to lack of trained manpower or educated youth. Why? Because the educated youth are not attracted to the agriculture and they are going to other fields of employment and they are searching employment in cities, employment in nearby towns. The youth trained in field prefer jobs and they do not want to engage themselves in directly agricultural activities. Even agriculture graduates, animal husbandry graduates and other related graduates, they search for jobs in the banking, insurance sector or the corporates which are manufacturing agriculture related implements. Even our agriculture engineers, whosoever it may be, they are not directly engaging themselves in the field level or they are not doing entrepreneurship or they are not doing any type of investment activity in agriculture. So we have to create the atmosphere so that educated youth and trained manpower is attracted. The reason, as already discussed, is lack of physical facilities and lack of corporate investment in the agriculture sector. If physical facilities will be there, big entrepreneurs will be there, the trained manpower will be attracted to the field of agriculture. Now we will sum up our discussion. We have already discussed about the concerns in agriculture field, our thrust areas, our strengths, everything we have discussed. And in the next session, we will discuss about the solutions, practical solutions which are possible to implement and which will increase the productivity and production in agriculture and bring about prosperity in rural areas. Thank you.